dances, but the stuff that we've always done, we still doing it. We doing it all over the land. We never stop being ourselves we at home. They trying to convince us to not express our inner soul because we can recognize each other. We know how we move. If a foreigner come through here, I don't care where he from. Haitians is not foreigners to North America. Jamaicans are not foreigners. Cubans and Dominicans are not foreigners. When we talk about the original people of these lands, we are one people, but we got many branches to the family, right? And if you look at how the conquest, you have to study Venezuela, study Brazil, look at how the amalgamation went, and you understand the one drop doctrine was there for a reason, because it was the remedy that they came seeking in order to heal the genetic defects of the grafted devils, so to speak. Because they was in the laboratory messing around with stuff they shouldn't have been messing with, and we became the ones responsible to clean it up because they was too stupid to figure it out. Stop using sulfur when you're trying to conceal your creations. That was the first problem. Right? And the deliberate shutting down of parts of the genome and the institution of new programs in the genome that controls people. Nobody can't live their best life because they all arrested development, retarded to sixth grade education level or 6-year-old education level. When you enter in the first grade, that's the first step of your intellectual
Hey, Roy, I forgot that you had these right here. It's just a couple slides. I want, like, you just can say what you're gonna say about them right here. Like, we got to go over this part of this whole evidence thing that we got going. Because I'm gonna cut and make stuff from this. So this is a flyer you sent me about the guilt, like the people coming. It's a whole bunch of people coming out the U.S. now, and it's all in the tabloid. Just ain't talking about it, right? This is the guilty. This one right here too.
Yeah. Okay, so you gotta remember, the police does not belong here. They are a foreign occupying military force. They don't belong here. They only here because they are the executive branch of the interim government. Now, if you want an example of how it worked, you have to go back to the Iraq War. That's the most recent example where you can see its totality, right? The police is equivalent to the U.S. peacekeeping forces in Iraq. And the interim president of Iraq is equivalent to the commander-in-chief of the armed forces that was established here as the United States. The problem is that once the commander-in-chief finds a competent chief of the land that can clearly show you the fraud, he's obligated by the codes of military justice to restore the rightful owners to their proper position as part of the Republic Restored program. It's called the Restored Republic because it's under what's called the redemption right. The redemption right is explained in the Uniform Commercial Code and how do you reclaim what was yours when somebody's squatting on your property, basically. You have to identify who you are, where you from, and then you have to see if there's a trail that can verify that all of this stuff is fraud. They already confessed to the fraud, right? The United States been found guilty of crimes against humanity and genocide for their activities on the land.
Right.
The United States is not the people. The United States was already ruled in the Supreme Court to be a corporation. Now, the corporation that was over Iraq was called Halliburton, who was also responsible for the rebuild in Afghanistan. The ones that was over here, the contract companies that came, Virginia Trading Company, the Royal Company de El Maroc, which we know, we call it Morocco, but it was a corporation. They was all fighting for the right to be the ones to govern over the land until the suitable tribal leaders stepped up to reclaim the land. Right? In this struggle, they end up having wars in the transports of goods from America to England because somebody had to pay for this shit. And in the process, the Royal Moroccan Company is feuding with the Virginia Company and the Northwest Trading Company. Those two companies eventually merge with several other companies. One of them was a Dutch company, but they all merged. And then they became one major company. And then they were the ones who's being called the United States of America, because that's the name of the new company that the amalgamation and absorption of smaller companies to govern and rebuild the land was part of. Now, the only thing that they have to do is establish some kind of peaceful arrangement with the Spanish Moroccan Company that's coming out of Northern Africa from the ones who fled in exile from Spain during the Inquisition. Back then, there was no country called Morocco. It was called Al Maghrib. There was no Libya. There was no Tunis. That northwestern portion was called Al Maghrib when they was running them out of Spain. So when they went there, they came over here, and in the process, they warring with the company that's going to become the United States of America. And they need to come to some kind of agreement. So they met in Paris, France, to sign what was known as the Paris Accord, which was to establish a peaceful operations by treaty, commonly referred to as the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. From this treaty, they won't interfere as long as when they divide it up, they get their due share. But they can't get it if we win. If we win the George Washington Challenge, they don't get shit. Right? But if we win, the tribes, we get it all back. They lost, we won. I remembered your ass is grass. So now we put it all back together. We reminding people of what happened. And we showing them where we getting it from. And then we explaining it to them different from how it was told as part of the false narrative. Because they had to keep up the false narrative in order to hold on to their last sips of power. There's no more sips.
Hey, Rod, somebody said, what you think about, shout out that boy Victor Patterson. Hey, he said, what do you think about Hitler being a black guy? I heard that.
All those reels we see of Adolf Hitler came from vaudeville. They came from vaudeville. Vaudeville was the silent music movie industry. Later on, they became your first movie reels, is what they was called. The character that we seeing in the picture we've been seeing is not who Adolf Hitler was. He was the actor that they used in the vaudeville reels so that we won't know that there's other people that look like us in other countries.
Mm-hmm.
That was a psyop played on the people in America. And most of the people in Europe know Adolf Hitler was swarthy because they be saying they called him the Swarth, right? And he had a genetic breeding program trying to correct the genetic defect in the people. This is where he got the blind hair, blue eye Aryan race when the Aryans is not blind hair nor blue eye.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The real Aryans are the people they call the Dravidians. But Enki's children was removed from power by Enlil's children in the Vermanus Wars.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't know nothing about that, so we won't know how to retell them what's taking place. The real Aryans look like the Jacksons 5 in 1973 in the family portrait. That's what they looked like.
That's right, Rod.
Right. Now, they giving us Enlil stringy hair kids, avatars, right? Calling them divine incarnations, and all they doing is taking what Enki said when he was the first fat Buddha, right? And as the first real Buddha, and then they retread him with Enlil's children. And now he looks Polynesian. Or he looks stringy hair Indian, Hindu. That's not the original Buddha. The original Buddha was called the Old Man Africa. But they call him that in modern times. That's not what he was called back then. He was called the Aethiops. The Aethiops is where you get your word Ethiopia. And this is why the old maps at one time had Ethiopia scrawled across them for the entirety of the continent before they changed the continent's name to Al Sudan. Right? Then you see the old maps with Sudan in English character written across the continent. That's when after the fall of the Songhai, Mali, and Ghana empires. Right? When each one of those empires was in power, everything else was like outreaches. The government wasn't ran how government is ran now. The only purpose of government is to allocate resources to diverse places. Otherwise, you don't need it. Right? Most of the functions of government used to be a family's traditional job. They just passed it down in the job. Everybody was rich, but they had what was called the family business, which a lot of people last names was derived from what they families did. Like the tailors, they used to make clothes, part of the Anasazi, the great weavers of fabric. Or you got people like the goldsmiths who used to smelt the gold for Big Mama. And they was the ones who used to set the standard for the coins in which we use for trade. Right? Then you had the silversmith clan. They did the same thing with the silver. Right? The blacksmiths, they were the ones who smelted the iron and formed the iron into the metal artwork. Right? Those are under the Kripke, the crooked man, patron saint of the handicapped and those who work with iron. It just so happened that bodybuilders in modern times are the offshoots of those bloodlines, like Ronnie Coleman. Right? This is where Big Tookie come in, because that's his function energetically to the earth to be the patron saint of the handicapped and those who work with iron. And that's why he had to give Schwarzenegger the rub for Schwarzenegger to become great. He had to touch greatness to become greatness. But he just took it from our system to their system in order to help us with our system. Right? So everything ties back to us at the end of the day. And what's this next question?
Somebody said, "Yo, Rod, Wakanda. What you think about?" It says, "What tribe was Wakanda made about? You think?"
If you go to the movie, right, it's telling you Tupac life story from the time he was in the Bay. It pick up after he left Baltimore. He in the Bay now. This is when he first had the encounter. T'Challa first had his encounter at the beginning of the first movie. Right? At the end of the first movie, after he did all this fighting throughout the whole movie, he go back to the Bay, renovate the university or the library or something, and then he's talking about rebuilding the Bay Area. Right? And they keep referring to T'Challa as the Black Panther. Now remember, in the movie they thought he was dead, and then they went to the Gorilla Chief. It's telling you the story of Tupac. Basically. But they're using the reference of Wakanda, which is actually a reference to the iridium in Haiti, based on the components of the metals. Right? And this is why the one when the girl became the Black Panther, she had to go to Haiti. She had to return to the motherland. So she left Africa, which we used to call the father's land, the land of Enki. And this over here is the original land of Isis. But she gave it to her baby boy, Tahuti, to be the guardian of the earth. He inherits the Americas. And she kept for herself Europe and Asia and Australia. And she assigned what we call today India and Africa to Enki. So you got different bloodlines, but you can only tell by the male haplogroup because all of the women trace back to the first mother. And after so many years, the first mother's blood DNA quantum reassembles based on the convergence and divergence of genetic pools.
Is he saying Hall? Hall?
Yeah, the last name Hall, like Prince Hall.
Yeah, that's Chata. Yeah, Chata.
Yeah. They used to be Longhouse lingo. The Hall used to be the Longhouse. And Hall is the English rendition of it. It's like a big ass pole barn. But that's what the political meetings used to, because it was always accompanied by a feast. So the Longhouse was the government headquarters. And then you had the Red House and the Blue House. One was your ambassadors and politicians who greet the strangers, and the other ones was the guardians of the bloodlines, your Red House. And this was responsible for cleaning up the genetic fuck up, the Red House. And the Blue House had nothing to do with it, but they can't do it without the Blue House. They need both sides of the family involved, right? So if you look at what was going on in Europe from 711 to 1492, you realize that they was trying to fix the problem on their own, but they was too much for them. They needed help. They needed some Brazilianization going on. But that's a whole nother thing. That's part of the South American Studies group. We ain't got there yet.
Oh yeah, we might have to come back. We had to I might have to do a whole breakdown on it. The South American Study Group. That sounds interesting. uh, hey y'all, hit that like button. We had about like 8,000 people on, so that constitutes enough people for this to be noticed to agent, notice the principal. We got about 2,100 people on now, more. Everybody hit that like button right now. Hit that subscribe if you're new to the channel. Man, everybody sent Chief $5 and put him all over the game. Everybody sent him. If you can't do that, send him $1. I know you got $1. If you're a baller, send him 100. Send him a C note, man. Put him in the game. All right. So, hey, I got one more question for you, Chief, before we get out of here, because somebody was asking about this. They said, well, somebody just dropped it. Let me see. Is this a super chat? This might be the question right here. It says, to oral tradition, what oral laws in reference to the Dragon Constitution? Drago? They might be saying constellation.
No, they talking about the paperwork.
Okay.
Right. So the oral tradition is older than the paperwork tradition. And if nobody's stopped us from using it, and as a matter of fact, it's one of our rights. And it's both asserted to in the Indigenous Rights Act of the United Nations and the United States Rights of Indigenous People. So it's in both of them that we got a right to use our oral tradition. So they wrote it in their system saying that's our right. But if we don't use it, what good is it to have it as a right? I just so happen to remember a lot of my past lives. So I know a lot of the oral tradition from having past life regressive memories. In the process, a lot of us don't remember, but as soon as we see it, we recognize it and we acknowledge it by participating in spreading the public notice. And that's how we get the message to all of the tribes, because all of the tribes don't talk the same, don't use the same lingo. So sometimes we have to shake the information in a different direction in order to get somebody that speak the lingo from, let's say, LA and Chicago, to tell them what a Chicago guy is saying in relation to LA culture. So now he know how to use the information from tribe to tribe to our advantage.
Somebody said, me again, Rod, something when I sit to myself, see a little light electric gliding across my eyes, and I can see it, and it begins happening a lot. Do you know what that is, bro?
That's just part of your awakening. You're actually looking inside your brain, you seeing your synapses fight. Especially if your eyes are closed and you seeing it. You looking in from your inner eye. I'm not going to decipher all the last names. Did you do a video on the last names, Elder?
Yeah, I already got. Yeah, I already got. If you want to get the last name thing, go to the playlist we got called Native American Chief List and watch. Shout out Dame Calloway, man, because Dame Calloway was one of the instrumental people on this tape. It's called Tracing Your Ancestral History, Part 1 through 7. And if I remember straight, I think Barlow was Shinnecock, but it depends on where you from, though. So, but those 7 tapes is probably like about 8-9 hours long. Not a piece, but like all together. But if you watch those tapes, it's gonna show your last name, the demographics, what location your family might have been in, how to look up on the doll's rolls. All that information is in those tapes in that file, right? What else I need to say? Let me just drop this right here. Hey, y'all, hit that like, hit that subscribe button, man. Everybody sent Chief something on the Cash App, man. Well, you want to say something before we get out of here, Chief? Because I got to get ready to shut it down anyway, because everybody got to get up at 5 o'clock.
No, I'm good. I think we gave him a lot.
Yeah, we'll come.
Heard anybody talk about, all the woke folks? Has anybody spoke about knots? And if not, why not? Being that we are surrounded by knots.
Only person who I know that wrote about the knots was Malachi in a book called Uman and Thuman. And it's about I think he touched on the 13 knots that was put on the rope and put in the well to curse Muhammad. I just read. But there is like a naval guide to making knots. When you study shamanism, they tell you about the power of using knots to like trap energy. They'll just like you binding the rope, you are binding the energy. You know, in the Christian church, they tell you to bind the devil. How you gonna what you gonna bind him with?
Oh,
right. So you either gonna have ropes to bind him, which you'll be tying him up at that case, or you got chains in which you need locks to lock him up. And a lock is an artificial knot used to tie two things together.
Wow. Was it you or Risha Stone said the original Islamic prayer necklace was knots? Who said that?
Yeah, now they do Dikra. It's called Dikra. But they changed it into beads because, Catholics have their little hands in Islam too. But initially it was knots. The 99 attributes of Allah.
Yeah. They actually used to have a priest who was trusted to make the Dikr. It was like he was his like family job, and he was what you would call a knot tire, in reference to the conversation, because he knew how to call on each one of the names to influence the knot that he's binding into the name.
I see.
Wow.
Spiritual technology.
That's heavy.
I'm gonna tell you where you seen it and you didn't know where you was looking. You remember them shows like Nights of Arabia, and you have the prince with a rope around his waist.
Yeah. I got a knot belt right here. And I'm gonna be honest, Jethro, the Clamptons. What's the name of that show? Beverly Hillbillies. That's the first time I seen a rope. The first time I seen a rope belt.
Remember, as soon as you mentioned it to me, that was the first thing I told you. Jethro had a rope belt.
Yep. And I was like, wow. Somebody said Zorro. I don't remember Zorro having a rope belt. Did he?
Yeah, because he wore the cape and he didn't have a buckle belt.
Man,
I'm gonna tell you where else you seen it at. You ever see the Druids with the brown robes? They all got the rope tied around their waist with the knots in it.
I was gonna say the Masonic Lodge.
Wow.
They got it too.
The signers.
Now it became heavily involved in the abilities of a longshoreman is to learn the science of tying the knots.
Wow.
Right? So when he's using these different knots, the more knots he can tie, the more experience he have as a longshoreman. And that's why they have a naval guide to knot tying. It's not until you study shamanism did you know that the practice of knot tying is tied to ancient mystic sciences, ancient mystic arts.
Deep. I like what the sister just said. Our hair Bantu knots.
All of our hairstyles was to serve a spiritual energy harvesting purpose for the soul. Your hair is your antenna. Medusa didn't have snakes, she had dreadlocks, but she was able to use what we call static electricity to make them zap motherfucker. Because she was able to maximize the output of her mitochondria and tune in to her own frequency.
Wow.
Remember, you can rub somebody's hair like this to develop static electricity.
Right.
So, well, we used to call them sacred locks. They became dreadlocks during the Mau Mau rebellion because the Mau Mau began to knot them up, following the tradition of the Rasta. And when they go through the Mau Mau ceremony, they either shave their head bald or they put it in locks.
Wow. I remember one time during a relaxing moment, one of the most beautiful memories is when a sister just let her locks out and just allowed her locks to just like cascade over my face, over my neck, chest, and waist. I was like, what? Why does that feel so good? I mean, there was something to it. I was like, oh, is she trying to knock me up?
Hey, when you said that, I heard what old song said, "This must be heaven."
Yeah, because it felt so good. It felt so good, you know. And then I'm thinking about, you know, sisters, y'all got knot magic, because you can knot up a brother in that sacred night dance. Hello.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that old juju trick they tell you? Get his toothbrush and tie the panties in a knot. Right, it's a certain amount of knots you got to tie the drawers in and go bury it in the front yard.
Yo, I'm talking about anatomically. Have you ever met? They call them sisters. They can knot it up. You can't go nowhere.
We call that the gorilla grip. She got the gorilla grip.
No, I'm just, you know, it's just life experiences I'm just sharing, you know, because I was a geek, you know.
We wouldn't get to our age if we didn't develop some life experience along the way.
Yeah, you got that right. Who would want to be our age and we say on YouTube, well, I'm a virgin, I don't know anything. Come on, y'all. There's at least, let me see, we got almost 150 years of, well, with the audience included, we got countless decades and centuries in all of the audience. We a library right here.
Absolutely.
We're a library. So I want to give a special acknowledgement to my brother who really is, I want to have him on the show also in the future, Sheikh Sufi. And I had invited him, but I think he's either in Morocco or Senegal. And one thing he did say is in Sufism, there's a lot of knots that would be considered either high science or magic.
They use them in calligraphy.
Say what?
The knots, they draw them in calligraphy.
Wow.
So remember I said
it's the intricate design of the calligraphy, and they capturing the energy of the surah.
So see, look, you remember what I said?
Look, our Sufi is the Sophia, the Ain Sof. All of their rituals are what we used to call women's rights rituals. Because there was a war and a raid on the sisterhood, the men had to teach a daughter in secret while they practice it in the open to keep this practice alive. Because we have to be able to jar our memory as to the purpose of the whirling dervish. That's an old Atlantean ceremony.
Wow.
And you had the tribes would dress in like the fire tribe. They would light the end of their dresses on fire and whirl. Wow. The water tribe, they would come in, they would wear theirs would be white with water all on the floor, and they would spin around and sling water.
Wow.
Right? But they all had to find a center. You can't continuously spin without fainting unless you find your center.
Powerful.
It's the spinning top. So in determining your spiritual balance is how well you can match your frequency and vibration to the vibration of everything going on around you. Once you find your center, now you are spinning from a pivot point. the quintessential spinning top, which is the shape of your aura.
So
That's heavy because I'm just thinking when we put a car tire on the axle, we tighten it, and it better be tight as a knot. You know, think
Where
about
you
it.
think cruising boats come from? Mimicking knots.
Would you say that again?
Where do you think screws and bolts come from? From mimicking knots.
Mm. You know what, Chief Rod? Arisha Stone family. Sometimes I just lay on my couch and I was thinking about knots. I think there's a certain arrangement of knots that creates anti-gravity, invisibility, levitation, regeneration, kundalini activation, prosperity. I think a sister, if she know how to intuitively, or a brother knows how to.
That's yoni science. You talking now?
Whoa! Tell us about that. Go ahead now.
The shape of the 8,
Ooh.
right? It's also the heart is, you can unroll the heart. Most people don't know that. You can unroll the heart. You can unroll it. It's one muscle folded on top of each other in a knot. And that's how you get your ventricles. All right. So when you tying everything up in a knot, you got to also reverse engineer it in order to see where else is it used in nature.
Wow.
But the figure 8 is also so they call it the yoni science because the figure 8 is around the vagina and the clitoris.
Oh shoot! I never thought of that.
It's the nerve centers. But now, as the energy moves through the figure 8, right, it speeds up. That's called arousal.
Wow.
Triggered by oxytocin.
I know. I want to acknowledge OJ Yemi for even making this. Yo, Goddess OJ Yemi, we giving you a special appreciation because she's the mystic one who made this happen. She's the pie. She's the pie master creating the mix. So thank you, OJ Yemi, because this is fun. Yo, you know what? Yo, Rod, you talking stuff. I haven't even heard the Taoist teacher, special acknowledgement, Montauk Chia, but he had never said nothing about the clitoris and the yoni figure 8 and then locking it up and not letting you out the gate. I mean, that's next level, man. That means, you shut down till your kundalini rise up and come around. That's deep.
Yeah. And now I noticed this. The woman have similar cells in her vagina that she have in her heart.
Wow.
So her heart is literally tied to her vagina.
Wow. I know Lester Lovin said that when a goddess, remember we gotta change the language. When a goddess is correctly aroused, her juices is rich in DMT.
Not only that, there's chemicals in it. Okay, it's like a queen bee. All of the bees that's female don't get to mate. They got to have the right chemistry. We have a similar thing among people, but because the arts and the sciences, we lost it all because of war. But it's still in the ancient writings what we call hieroglyphs and petroglyphs. And you can still see all of this stuff. Like the biology and the astrology is being written in the form of swoop types across the hieroglyphics and Kemet. They telling you a star system story and a biology story about a part of your body all in one symbol. And then they arrange the symbolism to mimic the stellar alignment so that you can have what they call an eternal clock, a clock that tells you how to reach eternity. And the only way to reach eternity is to realize deep in your soul that you are eternal.
Mm.
That realization activates your heart center.
Mm.
To open up your mind to your secondary heart.
Mm.
Right? So now your heart-mind connection becomes the union of Tahuti and Sophia.
Wow.
There's all the sacred love ritual that goes under the banner of the Holy Drama as a sub-story.
Mm.
Because Horus got Heru has to know how to ascend to his father's seat. But after the war, how was he going to remember? We need to leave a map. So we tell the Holy Drama story in every primitive culture on the planet, and we might change the name of the seven spirits in the Orisha to the seven Loas, you know, and we still telling the same story though. It's still the Holy Drama, which is the blueprint for the son to rise and ascend to the seat of the father, the prince to become the king. But if the proper reverence is not for the mother, you're not qualified. Your mother got to be able to talk to you to the heart. And you can hear even for eons after she's crossed over to the other side.
Yo, Brother Rod, Chief Rod, you hit the bullseye. I put on a knot belt, family. I made a knot belt. And listen, I'm encouraging everybody to do this intuitively. You know, use that brick or use that weight to figure out which way the knot makes you feel great. Because I had a knot belt on. Let me just check, make sure. I woke up in the middle of the night and said, "Ma!" And I yelled so loud, I woke up hearing myself say, "Ma!" And I was like, what in the world am I doing? I ain't never had nothing like that. Yo, this is some powerful stuff, Chief Rod, Orisha Stone.
You got specific cells on your mitochondria from your mother. Your mitochondria receives your spirit body into your physical form. It's through the mitochondria. How do we know this? Because the mitochondria powers the cell. And if it powers the cell, the source of the power is in the mitochondria. When we dissect the mitochondria, we find the matrix. When you find the matrix, you find the divine mother, the womb of the divine prime creator. So we tell the story still in the Holy Drama. It's the same story.
Special acknowledgement to Nityama, Master Nityama, Shantan Nityama, Master Yao. Special acknowledgement to Tantra Shaman Adara, and to all the mystics in the audience. This is, you know what comes to mind? They messed with our knot after we were born as men, and they call it circumcision, but they cut our knot off.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
They were cutting off 70% of your sensation as well.
They did what?
Cut off 70% of the sensation as well.
What about the
reason that the sheath is there to protect the most sensitive part? Without the sheath, the sword becomes dull.
Oh.
So you don't pull. So you don't just willy-nilly pull your sword out. Right? That's the sacred to the samurai. So the sword without the sheath is the sword that dulls the fastest. You only pull it out the sheath when it's time to use
it. They want to make us butter knives. Man, that's
another way for saying gelded. See, when you have your full sensitivity and you connect with the similar tissue through the feminine, it's a whole nother world.
Wow.
It's a whole nother world. Now, if you want to circulate the energy, and when you penetrate, your tongue go to the roof of her mouth.
Ooh, Lord.
That's what it feel like.
Mm. Yo, where's your star? I think you need to blow some smoke at the screen when he just said that, man. You know, throw some that.
I got you. You ready?
See, Rob, say that again.
Look, if you want to make the energy circulate, you complete the circuit by putting your tongue in the roof of her mouth.
You know, I'm getting real.
It's the socket and the plug. You can't just plug one side of the socket in and think your light lamp gonna turn on. You need both prongs in the plug.
Now, you know what? You got me on. While you talking that, I'm going to spin my knot right like this here. I'm going to spin it around. And the next time, slow dance, night dance, I'm going to do this all around the place. I'm like, oh, you know what? Imagine putting like frankincense oil or some oils on the knots and saying, we going to get busy. Or putting oil around a knot and then put that knot around a candle. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or say, yeah.
It's all in the, so everything that you do, you can use to harness energy. When you know what a knot is for, you tie different knots to harness